All right, and we're live. Welcome to the show, everyone. So today, I got Live with Rusty and Zyferus with me from New Age RP. How's it going, guys?
What's going on?
All right, we got just a few topics today. Might not be a very long show. We're gonna try and stretch it out. We're gonna make sure we take a lot of questions and comments and stuff from the viewers as well. So let's get into it. So the first topic that we have today is going to be really talking about an issue with server updates or software updates and kind of breaking updates and things like that. So the big issue of the week has been with the latest 5M server update, FX server update. There was something that has basically caused the FX server not to recognize dynamic name changes on the server name. And you guys have experienced this, and I know that a lot of other server developers have, where it is basically listing their server name as default FX server. So talk to me about what do you guys got going on with that?
Well, the first thing is that we didn't notice it until after the fact that it was persisting for, well, a half a day or so. People kept coming to us saying, "Hey, can't find the server." I'm like, "What the heck?" And back out of the server, log back into 5M, try to search, nada. Finally realized that the server would show the title when the server wasn't in a queue status. Come to the conclusion that every time that it would add a queue to the end or the beginning of the title, that it would default FX server our title.
So
And
basically
it
just
was
happen
kind of a little...
anytime the queue script would try to dynamically change the host name.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. So you actually came up with a kind of a temporary fix for that right now, and unfortunately it's not even really that great of a fix, but so you basically just disabled it from using the dynamic host name change.
Yeah, correct. So now it doesn't show until they log in until they hit the connect button how many are on.
Gotcha.
What he said.
All right. Well, this seems like something that really needs to be fixed. I mean, I can see a lot of advantages for dynamically changing hostname. I'm guessing that the 5MQ is not the only script that does that, which is why we're seeing a lot of broken servers on the server list.
There may be other scripts that do dynamic adjustments to titles and such.
Yeah, absolutely. So
yeah,
let's
not sure at this point.
Let's actually just take a quick look at the server list here. And so if we do a search for default, we're coming up with a whole lot of servers here.
Well, some of those, are, I would say, look more at the ones with the higher. Hey, there's ours.
Yeah, there's ours.
Yep. So
1, 2, 3, 4, fifth one down, fourth one.
down.
Wait a minute. Why is ours still showing that then?
I don't think we've rebooted since.
Oh, true.
I fixed it.
So, yeah. So you can see here, these top 3 servers probably are using queue because they do have a 6 listed there, which means that's how many people are probably in their queue. But But I mean, some big names. Infinity Roleplay, I think, is that one.
Sometimes if you click on them, the name will populate.
Yeah, it seemed to kind of do that from what I saw. It won't let me click on them here, but
Oh, because yeah, if you do it within 5M itself.
yeah. So let's see how many we have here popping up. I mean, there's a whole list of them. Now, some of these might actually just
Are gonna be
default servers.
default.
So any of the ones with the colored boxes like this. But the rest of them are very clearly active servers that are having the issue. And there was the list was quite a bit longer earlier today when we were looking at it. But that's still pretty crazy.
There was at one point I saw 50 plus servers.
Yeah, I'm guessing a lot of people have either disabled their queue or found another fix. So, yeah.
I really wish if they found a fix, they would share
They would
it.
let us know.
You know what?
Yeah.
I guess while we're looking at this, let's go ahead and pull up 5MQ in the forums. So while I'm looking that up, any other thoughts on this issue? Why 5M might have done something like that or changed something like that? You think maybe malicious scripts, changing title names or server names to change?
It could be a panic response.
Okay, so you think there might have been actually something that drove them to block this?
Or they have no idea that, you know, they're gearing up to do something with dynamic name changing. I know they were talking at one point. I saw a forum that was buried from about a year ago, a post that they were going to allow certain tiers of their 5M Patreon servers have color changing, names. So the as you're sitting there looking at the list, the names are color flashing.
Oh, yeah, that could be causing
So they might be
potentially an issue with.
They might be gearing up for that, and they were trying to test it, and they broke something in the process.
Yeah, so if the server, if somebody wrote a script where the server was continually sending to 5M, I can see how that could cause an issue for the 5M servers. Basically, it's a DDoS attack, just to change the colors in the server list. So that could be why they did stop that. That would make complete sense.
Yeah.
So I guess while I have the 5MQ up here, we're going to scroll down to the bottom and look at some of the comments and things that are down there regarding this issue. But they did remove the 32-player limit. So now it should work with onesync servers. I know we were talking about that earlier. And tweaking some logic and stuff to make it just work better for users, which is fantastic. So that's all well and good. Let's scroll down to the bottom here, because there were definitely some messages about the issue today. All right. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's been a whole lot of other comments added to this. You'd think with the issue, but here you can see.
And the hard part is a lot of people aren't recognizing the issue.
Yeah, I mean, they might have it set to, they might be using a link to just launch directly into it. I know there's a lot of servers that are doing that now. They might have it.
Could also be that most of their developers or all that have it on Direct Connect.
Yeah, I was going to
So
say Direct
it
Connect
seems
is
to
another
be,
issue.
you know, it is, you know, and it's only pure, you know, it all depends. You know, it seems to be flip a coin whether or not it's going to announce the queue name or not.
Right, right.
So
Yeah, and even some of them that were using Q, it looked like sometimes it was showing and sometimes it wasn't. So I don't know what the issue is there. Maybe it's only allowing, maybe the 5M servers on their side are only allowing it to ping them so many times. So maybe they had to implement some type of timeout, and if it's changing too frequently, then maybe
it defaults to the default FX server.
Yeah. So it may be a way just to prevent, you know, that DDoS type issue. But
then again, they have their heartbeat rolling every 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, but if, let's say you have a queue and a handful of people drop out, you know, it might have to, you know,
readjust it every
ping, you know,
3 times
10
in a
times
second
in 30 seconds. And it might try to send out those pings. I don't exactly know, but that's definitely an issue that needs to be addressed and figured out, because there's a lot of servers using scripts that do that. So all right,
and we'll find out if it actually fixed it by the time we go to reboot the server next time.
yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's only been happening for a day or two, and so, you know, a fix could come relatively quick for it, and it's definitely not causing any major issues. Just makes the server harder to find, but Direct Connect is still available.
The biggest issue we had was that we just launched the new server. So anybody who had with a new IP, because we went to a new box. So our biggest issue was that we saw a little less numbers. And then I got the bright idea of putting the new IP in the title of the old server and leaving the old server running without the queue. So
well, and the other thing about that too is like if I go back to the server list, the really kind of cool thing about the specific URL. So all you have to do is you can create a URL, put it in your Discord or your TeamSpeak or wherever, and give me a second here. I'm trying to show how that works. Sorry, 1 second here. Well, anyway, your host and port number that you use for that server. Yeah. And so you can create a simple link that you can put in your Discord, TeamSpeak, website, whatever, that will automatically tell their 5M client to launch that server. And that's actually what a lot of servers are starting to go to anyway. It helps prevent people from seeing the IP address and stuff, which is just kind of a nice benefit, especially if it's embedded into a website. It can be behind a JavaScript, you know, things like that. So definitely some security availability there, which is kind of nice. So yeah, so any other questions, comments, or anything on that?
It's aggravating. That's my comment.
It's aggravating, and hopefully we've got it temporarily solved until they can come out.
Yeah, and I'm hoping just by removing the queue, which can be, you know, aggravating for players trying to join, you know, not knowing how many people are in queue.
Right. Yeah, because we've seen that on other servers that they just have to sit there watching when, you know, they'll have it set up on like the Discord.
Well, that's different. We're still running our queue.
Right. But as far as the idea of removing the queue becomes that much watch and wait and hope that you've clicked at the right moment and
and then you're getting people spam the connect and your console's blowing up and
right. Well, that's the advantage of a queue too, is it does prevent kind of that DDoS type effect. It still hits your console, still hits your server a little bit, but the fact that they can't just kind of continually do it over and over again, and the likelihood that somebody will is lower as well, just because they know there's a queue. They know they're not going to get in by doing that. So,
and hopefully they're smart enough to realize that if they jump out of the queue to try to get back in, they're going to get to the bottom of it.
Nice thing about our queue, we changed some messages up and stuff like that. So even if they can't see the queue number before they click connect, they hit connect. It's going to say you're 7 of 37 on the queue. Queue works. We had a queue of 50 the other day. Just saying, full server queue of 50. It was interesting. Sorry, kids making funny faces at me. So the downside now is they don't know how many are in the queue. It's 4 of 6 right now, over there. But now they have to actually click connect, and wait for them to see how many are in queue. But we've changed some messages up that current, default messages were just, please wait, your number, blah, blah, blah. We added, our Discord link. Hey, come hop into Discord and, chat while you wait, kind of thing. Gets people over to the Discord, and because there are a lot of people that they go into a server that has high numbers, they're just randomly clicking on a server. They don't know that there's a Discord. They don't know there's a CAD system. They don't know there's a website, so as much as we can draw people to our other forms of media is the best thing for server owners.
Yeah, because we can still interact with them that way when they're still waiting in the queue or thinking about the queue. So
well, the other advantage too is, like for you guys, the benefit is you're a public server, but you would love to see them become actual members, and be engaged in the community. Maybe take on a Leo role, which is whitelisted, things like that. And so having that other medium is a nice option. So
correct.
Well, and we've also started rewarding active members and stuff like that with the priority system built into the queue. They have a 0 to 100 priority. Just even giving the person a 1, 100's the highest. Even giving them a 1 gives them a little bit, they bump far in front of just the randoms.
Absolutely.
So we've instituted a point system that if they're a returning member, and we see this, that they're returning, and they're good RPers, they're not, cancers.
Yeah.
Cancers are the biggest plague of a public server. They sorry, messages everywhere. We reward them. We give our admins, our moderators, our police, our fire, and our mechanics top priority to come into the server, and then it works its way down.
So those that actually
Patreon
have
members, things like that,
other people rely on, they're going to have higher priority.
Yep,
right.
They have higher priority.
And then below that'll be your actual supporters, Patreon members, and people who are throwing donations towards helping the server run and keep running, and cover the cost of that, and work its way down from there.
Yeah, and then just below all that is active members. People that we've seen coming back day after day after day. We'll give them a little bit higher than 0, so that they can maybe sneak in front of some people and not have to sit. Maybe they sit an hour in queue instead of sitting in queue 2 hours. One guy yesterday told me he sat 4.5 hours in queue.
Yeah, that's definitely
that's diligence right there.
He said he went grocery shopping and came back.
And he was still in queue. Fantastic.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's definitely, you know, a disadvantage or an issue with a growing community like yours, but it's definitely nice to see that, you know, that level of advancement moving up in the communities, having people want to come to your server even though they have to wait for several hours to join, just really goes to speak volumes to what you got going on. So
well, you know, it just makes me feel all tingly inside. Our little server that was meant for us to just screw around on turned into, at this point, it's, you know, over the last week, it's been one of the most popular servers because, you know, you only can go to 32. Well, 64 on a couple of them, but, you know, you hit 32, you're one of the most popular.
Next topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to cry when we talk about this topic.
So, yeah, so I guess,
You know, just think how I felt. I'm out of the country. When, you know, I went out of the country on vacation. And all of a sudden I get this message from Rusty going, oh my God, we just hit, and he's counting higher numbers every time he messages me. I'm going, what's going on?
We had this did we not have this talk last week on the show? I honestly thought we were being punked.
yeah. Well, I guess before we move on to the next topic, for you server owners out there that are having the default FX server issue, your members aren't able to find you, the real simple solution is, and this may be kind of tough to see, but
disable the dynamic.
All you have to do is creating a link like this one here. It's 5M.
Create a link.
5M:// and then the name of the server. And if you have a non-specific or a non-default port, you'd need to put the port number with a colon. So 30120 is the default port. But if you were using another port, you'd have to put the port number. And really, once they click on the link, what happens is it pops up and asks if they want to open 5M. And when they click open 5M, it'll launch the app and take them directly into the server without need for finding it in the server list, without need for knowing the IP or the dedicated domain name. So you can just load that directly into your Discord, TeamSpeak, website, wherever you want, and that will launch the servers for you. So that's some good information for all you server developers, server owners out there to know. Any feedback on that, guys?
The only other alternative is to
And were you guys able to see that? Was I sharing that screen or no? Oh,
no, you were on me.
My mistake. I thought I opened it. So just a new link, and it's just 5M://. We'll use your guys' server just because I happen to know that off the top of my head. And if it's a non-default port, you would just do colon and the port number. And you know what? I'm going to put a wrong port in here and hit enter.
Okay.
Open 5M, and it should tell me that that doesn't exist once it opens. But
3 hours later.
Right. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next topic. So it's going to be kind of generic. Please, if you're watching, feel free to ask any questions about this. We'll try to answer them to the best of our ability. There's still a lot of unknowns and other issues, but we're going to move on to talking about onesync and the greater than 32 users.
And the issues.
Yeah, and some issues. I think right now, but I guess we'll just start off with one of the major issues that it's going to be experienced. So one of the biggest issues that they're going to be experiencing right now is the issues with ESX. So ESX is having issues with the new natives because it hasn't been updated yet. And so I guess it's not really an issue with onesync, but the way that things change, there's a lot of scripts that currently won't work with it based on the natives that are available.
And right, because all the natives are based on 32 players and are hard-coded in the script at 32 player max.
Well, I don't know that they're necessarily tied to the 32. I think it's sometimes just maybe more of a lot of them are a more efficient way, or opening it up to additional functionality that wasn't there in the original FX server. Would you agree or disagree with that there, Rusty?
I would agree that, you know, that's the thing. Just want to touch on one thing. Dragon, like Chip said, this is not a show about New Age roleplay. This is just so happens that both me and Ziff are on it. So this is more of a 5M show. We do talk about New Age on here, but any questions or concerns you have directly about New Age and things like that, I would refer to the forums or the Discord and speak to people in there, or wait for us to get back in there after the show. But yeah, you know, they got to optimize, you know, ESX to work on, you know, onesync. It's new. You know, they changed the natives and they changed a few things around, and it was working. It worked for a little bit, but I think most of the people that are running onesync currently are running VRP. So that's where it's working the most.
Yeah, and like I was saying, I don't think that the changes to the natives in onesync, I don't think it has anything to do with the 32 players. There may be a couple of them that are. And some of the changes loosely are probably tied to the 32 players, especially if the way that the code was written was just highly inefficient.
Yeah.
That
Scoreboard.
would make sense. Scoreboard's terrible. Scoreboard is even the third-party scoreboards. None of them are really great. It's definitely a constant issue.
Yeah, scoreboards I know for sure. Scoreboards, you have to disable Archon log. You have to adjust, you know, hard cap.
For
what
the hard
else?
cap, you have to adjust it to what?
I'm not 100% sure.
So I think I saw on the onesync forum, they said to set your max player limit at 255 or 254 or something like that.
Yeah, I was seeing some of that.
And I think by default right now it hard caps to 64 on their server side. But I think they want everybody to run it at 254 for their max player limit. And that way,
because they did say once they get 64 stable, they are going to keep moving up in 32 increments.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that makes sense. And there's no reason why they couldn't just stick to that flow. So,
well, there's competition, 5M competitors that have servers capable of players. It's just they're not as easy to work with as 5M is.
Yeah, and
which is why they don't have a player base.
It's not so much that it's not as easy to work with. It's actually designed to be easier for server administrators to launch new servers. The problem becomes is there's not a ton of there's not a really good way to to do your own custom scripts and stuff. There's a little bit, but it's not nearly as advanced or open as 5M. It's
honestly, we tried
as well too. I think
the one, you know, obviously 5M we, you know, probably advertise for any of the other platforms, but the one of the other ones we charged was were 1,000 man. And the issue we were having is no matter what version I put my GTA to, it would not let me in any of the servers. It kept telling me that I had an unrecognized version. Roll back to the October 2018, you know, and it was November, so it's like 1 or 2 updates back. Nope. Roll back farther. Nope. And I could never find the right version to actually launch into a server.
Even tried rolling server back, and it's still nothing worked.
Yep. I couldn't, and it wasn't nothing we were doing. I was trying to load into just random. They had 800 people in there. A lot of things that I was seeing, but it was literally just an 800 person GTA online server. That's all it was. There was no, like you were saying, there's not a lot of customization in there. Everything was stock.
I felt like there was it's been a while since I looked at it, and I guess in the end it doesn't really matter. It's just, it wasn't good for developers, and so that's why a lot of servers have decided to stay with 5M despite their own flaws. And almost, it seems like...
Yeah, 5M is a lot more flexible as far as administrative and dev side of it is. It's a lot more flexible.
Yeah, even though to an extent it doesn't really seem like they're even super interested in the developer community necessarily all the time. So, it'd be really nice to see them do a little bit more outreach. I think the documentation's getting a little bit better. I saw some major updates in there, and there's constantly uncovering new functionality and stuff like that through the natives. So, but sometimes I just feel like they uncover the documentation, uncover what it does, and then they don't really document it as well as they could to really
they
explain.
don't flesh it out. They say here's the commands, here's what the commands kind of do, but they don't show you exactly how to use a lot of the not commands, functions.
Well, and then this parameter or property,
right?
They'll list it out, but then they'll say, well, this property doesn't. They don't say what it does. It's just like a 1 or a -1, and I guess you use it like you just put the -1 in there, not knowing what it actually does. And I feel like there's kind of a lot of that could be maybe improved, and just identifying that type of stuff. So yeah, and the 5M collective doesn't like roleplay servers all that much. So, and that's from the chat there. So,
hi, Chip. Well, Default Danny, why are you not on the show?
So
we need to give him a little guff.
So yeah, ESX has some work to do. They've got to figure out these new natives and integrate them into their script as well, and then hopefully they can just pass it down to where the current, not every ESX script developer has to upgrade their script in order to make it work with it. Hopefully ESX can do that at the core level,
or even put in some sort of conversion that if it states 64, 32, whatever, it can automatically convert
based on the server configuration or whatever. Yeah.
It would look in the server config file. Okay, server config is set to a maximum players of 64. We know that we have to, these kind of, all these natives need to be swapped to this native to operate properly.
Yeah, I think I have to agree. I mean, but I really think it needs to be done at the core level as much as possible, so that when they do push an update and it is for onesync, it's still not breaking other scripts. So I really think that is something that has to be done at the ES extended level in their core scripting to do the best they can to avoid. And it's because not all scripts use 100% ESX base underneath, right? So even if there's another code or something that uses a native, there might be a native in ESX for that they fixed. the script might be using the direct native instead of the ESX core version of it, which would have already been fixed. So you'll still see some broken scripts, even when you have to understand how to read code. You have to make sure that those scripts are not going to break on you before you just flip the switch and go to onesync. Make sure you open a test server, one script at a time, load it, test it, next script, load it, test it, unless you really know what you're doing, and you can definitely troubleshoot the issues. So everybody keep that in mind. What else we got on onesync?
It has promise. We'll give it that much.
Definitely has promise.
With our test last night, they did fix the chat functionality, voice chat functionality of it.
In-game voice, yeah.
Mm-hmm. We weren't hearing people all the way across the map. Everybody was able to talk. We had above 32 in the server.
And that's using the built-in Mumble server?
No, that was using ESX
whatever
voice
they have
whatever.
Whatever they had built in.
ESX fixed their voice.
Someone fixed something, me and Ziff weren't directly working on it. One of our guest
So it's the
dev.
It's the default, right? The default, whatever's built into onesync, that voice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that's using Mumble, and I think Mumble has a 3D feature as well, where at some point you'll be able to hear which direction the voice is coming from as well. So that should be pretty cool, and it'll have a much better range variation. What I'd love to see them implement in Mumble voice in onesync is kind of features similar to like what a Discord offers, where it automatically adjusts the gain to balance the audio out across all the people talking. And the real benefit of something like that is then they can do a much better distance. Like the voice trails off. The further away they are, the quieter the voice gets.
Volume control, yeah.
And if you yell, then it would be like yelling, right? So you could yell, and then somebody that's further away than what you were talking would be able to hear you. If you start whispering,
it'd be quieter.
Only the people next to you could hear you, or you talk quieter, only the people next to you will hear you. And you get real loud, and then the people on the other that are further away can hear you. And that would be I think a huge advantage to the game. Now again, that would be more beneficial for roleplay servers, but I still think that would be a huge move in voice for it. Servers already like Arma 3 using like Task Force Radio and TeamSpeak already have this functionality built in, so there shouldn't be any reason that they shouldn't be able to implement it into 5M.
You could also have it so that if you're actually shouting, the people right next to you hear you very loudly, like it is in real life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And I would love to.
Unfortunately, then remind me not to be anywhere near me.
Well, so the benefit though of them doing it correctly would be that it should balance out the audio and put everybody at a normal talking voice on the same gain level. Like, so they're, if I'm talking to you, like right now, our voices are pretty well balanced out, I think. I don't think any one of us is louder so much than the next, other than, just kind of our standard different volume levels. So I think the advantage of them being able to do that is that then they can control the yelling distance, as that gain then goes up and down, they can adjust the distance at which that's able to be heard.
Well, yeah, and you don't have to you no longer have to worry about, your shift H, are you on shout, normal, or whisper, if you're there and you're standing on, you could be standing next to somebody and, turn towards them, especially with the 3D, and you'd be like, hey, let's go do drugs. Or, hey, see dead people. You know, and
Yeah, I
and
think that would be a
whisper.
huge advantage for sure. Absolutely. And it would just bring a lot of realism to the servers. Not to mention, you won't get those people that just blow your eardrums out, which will be
Me, man.
oh.
Stiff. I love you guys. By the way, if you're watching, I do love you.
Yeah, so definitely Mumble getting improved then in onesync. What else have you guys seen with onesync lately? So you've been doing some testing with it.
We did yesterday when we first launched. You know, our coding god on our server. Hey, this would be a prime time. You know, right as we port it and we shut down the other server, to just give it a shot. What's the worst that's gonna happen? We're gonna break shit. Duh. Apparently, that wasn't enough of a turnoff, so we did it. We did it, and it took about, I don't know, the first couple times it took about 4 or 5 restarts. Then we realized that, you know, I thought by just putting at 5MQ up to 64, you know, we'd be able to go there. C# doesn't allow that, so we had to disable Q. Then we got in. We were over 32. I can't give you an exact number. I just know we were over 32.
I think we hit the 50s.
I do believe you're right. I think we were close to 50 at one point. We were having timing out issues, but that was most likely one of the scripts not communicating properly. Our ESX police jobs were not working. But yeah, so that's kind of where our test went, was, you know, on a whim, let's do it. And so we did it. And about an hour and a half later, we're like, you know, this probably isn't the great, you know, we can test these features with only 2 or 3 people. We just need to make it. So we're opening up a 64-man onesync test server on its own IP and database for the time being.
Sorry, muted.
Oh. No,
yeah,
sorry.
I agree with that.
Downfall to being a dev and an owner. You never, you know. There's
all right.
100 messages now.
So we had a request from one of the viewers to Ice. He's definitely watching the show right now. So he wanted to talk a little bit about community mergers and how that affects devs. Before we get to devs, though, I wanted to talk a little bit about how it affects server administration. And so, you know, I used to be one of the founders of a server, and we did quite a few mergers to increase membership. So community mergers are a great way to increase membership, increase activity, the number of people that are in server playing, unless you get pretty lucky like New Age RP did and just get an influx of people like this. But for a lot of servers, they struggle to improve. And I think what you end up seeing is you talk to other servers that have, you know, no developer maybe, or very poor development, and they're just using out of the box scripts. They can't really do too much with it, whatever the case may be. And you know, so because of that, they have maybe 10 to 15 users that are, some are active, others aren't so active, just like any other server. And so you go through all this, and then so the server basically that's going to maintain the name, the administration, stuff like that. What you tend to find is all these people that were in power roles, right? We'll call them power roles, chief of police, administrators, things like that. They have to understand they're not going to get their same role back if you're in a role-based server, which you have to break down leadership into smaller segments. It's the way the military does it. They do it for a reason, because it works. So that's why there's a chain of command. That's why you go through those people. That's why you break it down. It's difficult for, you know, a small group of people to be able to answer all the questions for everybody. I think one of the issues you guys have right now with Growing Pains, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but everybody wants to go to Ziff or go to Rusty directly to ask a question, when realistically, if they just asked it to their chain of command, you know, if a Leo has a question about the CAD, they went to the, you know, a supervisor or chief of police or whatever, they could get their question answered. And when you're trying to run the server, develop for the server, all that type of stuff, it makes it very difficult to stop and answer every single little question that's available. And it becomes even more of a pressure once you start bringing on these other communities, because they had their own structure. They were maybe smaller and everybody had to go to the server owner. And so they think they have to go to an administrator of the server or a developer to try to get their voice heard, when in reality, you know, they could go through their chain of command and get their questions answered and stuff like that. The other thing is, you know, when server owners decide to merge their servers, or one decides to let another server take over their membership base and stuff like that, you know, there's a lot of issues with people that didn't like the merger, didn't want the merger to happen, and they become very unhappy and become cancerous in the new community, versus just trying to find a way to, instead of just trying to find a way to make it work, you know, working with the server administration, talking about issues that are bothering them, things like that, becomes definitely a major issue when you're doing those mergers. So there's a lot of issues with that. But every once in a while, a great merger, it ends up sticking. You get some great RPers, you get some great new members that are engaged, want to help, and those are the people you want to move up. You don't want to, you know, the people that are just in it for the power role. You know, they were a chief of police or staff or something on the previous one, and you're like, well, you're not going to get that here. Those people will start to cause issues with the members that were part of the old community. So I'm not going to repeat everything for the last 30 minutes, Chip. That's not going to happen. So, I'm sorry. I probably should have switched the camera here. So that's my take on
I don't mind the FaceTime
administration. That's my take on the administration aspect of it. As far as development then goes, you know, I'll start it off and then I'll pass it off to you guys. I don't know if you guys have done any migrations or mergers with anybody in the past?
Not directly any mergers or so we've had a partnership with another, you know, same namesake. Same namesake.
So the server basically
same initial sake, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll recap that real quick and then I'll kind of pass it off to you and you can tell me how it's going with the members that have come over. So say it. So New Andreas RP was the server, and the issue that happens is their attendance or activity was low, and it doesn't make sense to continually dev and operate a server because that still takes time even if activity is low. So the best thing to do sometimes is to, you know, kind of shut it down, work with another community to take on all your members, right? That way your members are at least taken care of. And, you know, at a later date, they could come back and launch up another one and, you know, continue again as a network. They'll have those members and they'll likely share them. So a lot of the members that you'll receive are going to be really happy to be there. They want to role play. They want a busy, active server. And then there are some that are going to have issues. So talk to me about your experience with some of the new Andreas members that have come over. And you don't
we've
have to
had
give
a
any names,
couple.
of course, but
Right. We've had a couple come over. I'm not sure directly about any specific player because, over the last they started coming over within the last week and a half, and we've been focused on the hardware issues of the server. So I wouldn't know any direct, attendance or anything like that right now. And I wouldn't even say that ours was a merger. Ours was more of a partnership, and we're kind of calling ourselves sister communities now. And sisters because Ziff is part owner too, and he looks like a girl. And
so
so we're not really a merger per se with New Andreas. We are more of a partnership. Mr. Wonderful, Chip there, obviously, is that owner, and he helps us out. Eventually, once we get our community, where we have it, we're gonna, do the same thing back to him, help him out, it's gonna get to the point where we're gonna have full servers. We've already discussed putting a message up. Hey,
Put it in the queue message, maybe.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
basically just
we're
saying
gonna say,
that New
hey,
Andreas
guess
is
what?
back up, and
Yep, you go ahead and go play over there, and I would assume he'll get an influx, and send him our way if he's full, or after and that's kind of how we're working that. We did have another server that I used to admin on. Zip is the bearded lady. Sorry. Look at him, he's turning red. No,
I'm sunburned. I'm already red.
Oh, okay, that's what it is. So we had another community that I used to admin on that had a issue. They were running Essential Mode 3, and they were almost forced to upgrade because they couldn't run any new scripts and when they upgraded to 5, it broke everything.
Oh, of course.
And they were down for a long time. Almost, I've kept up with them. Their player base just ran away because they were down for, just rebuilding the server. They were down a good 2 months. They haven't fully shut down their server, but their whole player base now, because I played with them when we all stayed in contact playing on other servers and stuff, are now on ours, including parts of their dev team and ownership play on our server. I'm assuming he's still working on his server, and at some point he's going to relaunch it, but he even wanted a place just to, okay, I've coded for this amount of time, I'm done, I'm going over and I'm going to go play. Well, I'm going to go RP.
And the other thing is, as a principal, right, if you are one of the main people on the server doing a lot of the dev work, doing a lot of the administration, operations, all that type of stuff, it's very easy to get burnt out. Very easy to get burnt out. And of course, we don't like to see that, but it happens. And so that's something to kind of keep in mind as well when you're talking about this. And especially when you have to deal with then a whole bunch of extra issues. Well, on our old server we had this script, why can't we have that in your server? Just silly stuff like that. Or we had these vehicles, can you put all these vehicles in? Well, yeah, we can, but we need to test them to make sure that the handling is right, that works with all the other handling. We need to make sure that part of the car isn't just invisible. We pulled a vehicle model over that worked perfect on another server, and for whatever reason, when we loaded it into ours, it was invisible. You couldn't see anything, and we literally just copied the files directly over. So no idea what happened. Textures, some other textures or whatever they had was causing it, or there was an issue with compatibility with one of the other vehicles that we had, or whatever the case may be. So there's a lot of...
It's funny you say that, because when we would go from test server to live server in 2 different boxes, there was incompatibility issues right there. Literally same exact framework, everything. We just tested the script first on the test server because we were live. We'd grab it, port it over, put it in the server config, start it. It didn't work the same.
Yep.
What is it? The FWD health bar one that's down below the below the
food,
map,
water, drunk.
mini-map. Yeah, food, water, drunk. That worked on the test server. I imported it, and all the colors were mixed up and all the bars in it. So I had to go into the HTML and switch everything around. Okay, not a big deal. I was like, oh, maybe just something got screwed up. When I ported it to the live server,
it went back.
It was all, it went back, and I had to go and grab the default HTML file and throw it in for it to work. It's like
some crazy stuff.
How
like
is that even possible?
Yep. So, I know Ziff, you've been on vacation the last week, but prior to you leaving and kind of since you got back, what have you seen with new membership or new people coming over from another community?
I've had a few people, even when I was on vacation.
Oh, we lost your
who
audio.
said hi.
There we go.
Sorry. Even while I was on my vacation, I still check Discord and everything like that. I still stay in touch. I had a few people that come in and say, hi, I'm from such and such. How does this work? How does that work? You know, but nothing show-stopping.
Okay.
Haven't had it. Didn't. I don't see that we had a whole bunch of people. At least they didn't advise us that they were from the other one. If they did, they just came and played.
Which is always welcome
as exponentially as it did. And we're thankful for that. But at the same time, not everybody comes in and says, hey, I'm from such and such a place and I'm here to play. They'll just hop on and play. So
yeah. Well, and that's always perfectly good as well. So yeah. So I think what we'll do is let's jump into our scripts of the week. So
we should have some like dun 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 music.
I'll end up using that transition for specific things like scripts of the week, server spotlight, which we don't have a server spotlight this week. We're going to be trying to get in touch with some server owners and see if we can get some guests on in upcoming weeks. But today we've got three scripts for scripts of the week. Just kind of unique, some unique scripts. And so this first one was brought to us by GeneralBuzzSaw in our Discord. And let's go ahead and pull that up here. All right, so it's the manual transmission resource.
Yeah, this one's still discussion and research stage.
Yeah, so this is in research, discussion and research. This is something that's coming up. They're trying to work on it. I think basically what this will do is it's gonna make it a little bit more realistic as far as acceleration, speeds, things like that. I think is kind of the idea here, and the ability, if you want to be able to manually shift using buttons on your gamepad or whatever the case may be.
Wasn't there already another manual?
Yeah, there's another one. This one
is there. Okay,
that's
what I thought.
Oh, the pictures aren't loading now, but there was no.
Yes, we are live, guys. This does happen.
This does happen. So it breaks down. It seems like there's a little bit better understanding of how the actual car works with the engine, the clutch, gearbox, things like that. And I think it does bring into some realism. If you want to stay in first gear and just do donuts, then you kind of should be able to, right? Instead of the way donuts kind of work in GTA logic. The benefit of this is you can definitely do things like drifting easier, stuff like that. So I think the idea behind it is a great idea. Anything to bring a little bit more realism and kind of some other functionality and stuff would be pretty awesome. So what are your thoughts on this, guys?
I think it's an interesting concept, but probably as far as the player's aspect, probably confuse the heck out of them, or just cause them to lose interest in a lot of it, to try to keep it in automatic mode.
Well, and this may not be an RP based script. This could be on one of the race servers or something like that. So I mean, I see some advantages to some
on
of the
a race
other...
server. That would be an amazing script.
Right.
My damn RAM could use one of those.
Yeah,
there.
We definitely need to talk about some of the other game modes and stuff a little bit more frequently. So I think maybe next week we will grab as many game modes as we can and just kind of walk through them. I know that I've actually done some streaming and stuff with Demolition Derby, which was awesome. We have a King of the Hill or King of the Castle. I can't remember what it's called. I know that the server that I've played on, they called it King of the Mountain, but there's that game mode, there's racing game modes, there's Battle Royale. I think there's a Battle Royale one out there somewhere. That would be kind of cool. So definitely I need to look into that. And 5M has done some contests recently talking about getting more game modes built and stuff like that. So and actually I have an idea for game mode that I'm not going to get into, but we definitely want to look at potentially bringing that to life as well. So but definitely could see some advantage to having a manual gearbox, especially for the race servers. But I can see some benefit as far as maybe you can toggle it on and off, you know, like some of the Teptronic cars or whatever. That way,
right? Give it a function where you can go automatic.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it'd be just like, so my car, I can move the gear shift over and I can manually shift it, or I can slide it to the right and then I'm back in just normal drive automatic mode. So I think there could be some advantage to that.
Again, has potential.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next script here is a script that you guys use. It's Kashacters, multi-character, and then this is for ESX, so that you can have multiple characters available to you in your roleplay server. So
yes,
I guess
it's been a fantastic resource. It just has not been completely issue free, as I would expect.
Okay, so I guess let's talk about definitely the advantages are pretty apparent, right? So
yes, 100%.
So the
individual characters.
Yeah, so you could role play as this person until they get hospitalized or whatever, and you can switch to a different character and role play with that character for a while. Maybe you have a third character for when you're a cop, and then you can even use that character when you're off duty. I mean, I just see a lot of advantages to being able to RP
right.
with multiple characters, different personalities,
right? Because it does
different
separate
jobs.
Everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, what currently I know everybody on our server, they have one characters, and then they have their full trim character. You know, the guy who's, you know, out there, you know, running drugs, robbing banks, and, you know, on other servers, you know, you didn't have that luxury. You know, if you were a cop, you were a cop. You had to stay clean. You know, you had to keep your nose clean. And if you were out running drugs or something in your off-duty time, you had the potential of being caught and fired. You know, but it's, you know, now with up to, and I do believe I remember right, the script default allows 4. I've seen people talk about they've been running 6 or Chip, I think you were talking to somebody on one of the forums about running up to 8, if I'm not mistaken. You know, you can chime in on that one. I thought you know, you could probably scroll down and see Mr. Chip in the, you know, talking back and forth in the forum there. But he, I think I saw someone talking that it'll support to 8. You know, just has to, you know, remodify some UI, you know, in HTML to get it all on the screen. But, you know, it's Yeah, Chip had his set to 6, so 6 is 6 characters. I wouldn't ever go that. That's just a lot of, who can ever play on 6 characters? You never get enough time to do anything or make any money.
Yeah,
downside with the script is there is some coding to do and a lot of the other things to separate everything.
Well, and you have to connect it to potentially a CAD system and stuff like that too. So definitely some
yes,
some things.
The advantage is most CADs support multiple characters already per user. Most of them.
Yeah, some do. I mean, well, and it's not so much that they don't support it. What the issue is making it work with your cache characters and stuff like that. So,
yes.
And I guess briefly, why don't you talk to us about just some of the issues you've had with it?
We've had a few times where it has, well, currently right now it's having a problem differentiating in data store data. It'll throw an error when certain people come in if they've bought a mask or a hat, or glasses or something like that. It'll try to revert back to standard. We are currently having
Default
some
Danny.
issues. Yes, there was some default Danian issues. There was an issue where there's still a current issue where we throw a line of red code, in the console whenever you load in, because it's having there's a native in it for checking if player was dead, while ambulance job does the exact same thing. So
and they don't tend to cooperate.
Yeah, they don't tend to cooperate. And then we did have an issue, was it 2 weeks ago, Ziff, when we had to have that, it wouldn't. So what was happening is that when you'd come in, it wasn't communicating with the database properly after a 5M update. Needless to say, 5M's didn't want to, they didn't want to say it was them. They didn't want to say it was cache, kind of thing, back and forth. Eventually what happened was, and I'm not sure what's happening with the dev on that, cache. He may have died, but
yeah, it was forcing slower queries to the database. We were already having issues with slow queries on that server, but then it was forcing even slower, so that by the time the person tried to load their character or whatever, it couldn't catch up, so it'd throw them as a default.
Yep.
Gotcha. So really, I mean, just adding
there's
a check-in would have been...
There's a man right there that does a lot of commenting on the cache character. If that's the same one, that man right there in chat.
So, so you're talking about Friendly, I'm guessing.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Friendly, you can chime in here. So what do you said nope, all good. So some of the issues that they were having with the default Danny, things like that, so that's been resolved in recent updates, I'm guessing?
I haven't seen any direct updates. I have seen some. He did a new UI that we have looked at and we are going to most likely incorporate.
Is this a fork of the initial project then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So
yep, he's done a couple forks.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Friendly, why don't you definitely come into our Discord and we'll definitely have a chat with you about some of the other stuff you got going on. And we're always looking to have some new guests and stuff on the show. So feel free to reach out to us there, and we'll chat more. I guess let's go ahead and just move on to the last of the.
Great script though, gotta say. Script.
Oh yeah.
Script great. Just had its downside. Couple downsides that have been fixed.
Growing pains almost.
Yeah, yep, growing pains right there.
So we'll move on to the last script of the week for this week, and that is going to be simple 911 command. And I think the major advantages of this one is that it will use location, map blip, and also a Discord webhook, which is really exciting. We talked about Discord webhook last month, or last week, I should say. And
Discord web. Yeah, the Discord webhook aspect is amazing for the communities. Like, we're trying to eventually work work the CAD offline as dispatch, so they can keep an eye on the Discord, see that pop up, throw it in the CAD, as well as dispatch units out to it properly.
Yeah, I mean, it basically would be like an anonymous 911 call. And actually, 911 now allows text messaging too, so it'd kind of be like that, you know. And potentially the benefit of that is you could actually talk right back to the person as well by tagging them or something. It maybe it'll pop back up in their chat, and they can do the /911 again and be able to continue that conversation or something. So let's take a look at a couple of the images here. So there you can see it in the text.
That's the chat window, yeah.
Yep, the chat window. And then
I'm watching the show live on YouTube. I'm like, you're not moving the screen.
And then here'd be a blip showing how the blip works. This is how you type it into the chat.
And it's a registered command, which is good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so easy to register a command. I don't know why every command that people make isn't registered. It's just so simple. And then here's a look into the Discord. So they created basically a test channel for it and created a webhook with the webhook address and put it directly into their script. So pretty simple stuff. Really easy to set up.
I'm guessing my question about this is that when the blip pops up or the call, you know, whether it be a notification, is it just a Discord message and then there's a blip?
It pops up in the text or in the chat.
Is there an ESX notification?
Well, I don't know about
an ESX
notification.
Script.
It's not an ESX script.
Which then poses the question, does it pop that up? Does it pop that blip to everybody? Or
that would be another question, but I think it's a good base that you could kind of convert if you needed to.
Yeah, fork it into an ESX mode where it only shows it to
well, you don't even need that for ESX, really. You could actually, that could be forked to, there's other ways to determine if somebody's a cop or not, depending on how the server's set up, things like that. So it's not just ESX, but that's definitely could be functionality added. And realistically, without even modifying the script a whole lot, they could actually just export some of that functionality, that you could write a separate script to connect it to your ESX or whatever. I like modularity, so I hate when a script is kind of specifically tied to a framework or things like that, when it could be tied with a helper script instead.
Yeah, standalones are lovely scripts, you know.
Yeah, but they do need some functionality, you know, into frameworks too. So let's say you wrote a script like this, and so you would, in your config file, you'd start 911 command, and then you would start 911 command -ESX if you're running ESX, and then it kind of helps mitigate that communication between being a default script and being a standalone script. So connects it into ESX for whatever you need it to, database, all that type of stuff. So I think that's pretty much all I have. Let's go ahead and open up to the chat, see if anybody has any questions or anything they'd like to ask on any of the topics that we had today. And open up to you guys too if you have anything else you wanted to bring up, talk about.
I don't think I have any other topics right off the top of my head. Questions might spark some brain power.
Well, I mean, it sounds like 5M is starting to make some definite improvements. They're really starting to move their code forward. So
Heck. Go ahead.
I do say that there was a lot less updates in the last week from our last show. I do remember kind of looking back at the show. I was kind of complaining about 5M updates, and I do apologize, 5M, but I know you're fixing things and making them better. But I do see that this week there was less updates, so they're getting somewhere. Something is happening. You know, yes, we've had a little bit of a throwback. You know, a little bit up with the default FX server, but you know, things break, things happen. I'm a dev, you know, I understand, you know, a comma in the wrong place or a, you know,
well, and like we said,
could really screw you.
Like we said, with that breaking functionality, yes, it's something that needs to be fixed or at least explained. But it was probably done for a very good reason, many of which we recapped. So
yes.
All
and
right,
I would love to see where that's going. I guess no one loves us to ask.
Yeah, I guess not.
Another slightly off topic or change of topic.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys have seen the news that 5M is throwing out now. How they've jumped 10,000 concurrent players in just a fortnight.
Yeah, so we actually talked a little bit about their concurrent player count last week. So they went from, I think it was, they were gaining like 12,000 a week for the last couple of weeks. So they were at 12,000 concurrent. They went to like 20 to 24. So they were at 24, and then when we did the show last week, they were at 32. So I mean, they're jumping several thousand.
Now they're over 35. Users.
Yeah. So
it's impressive, and it begs the question as to what is drawing this. What is
I can tell you,
New Age RP.
Well, New Age RP is doing fantastic. What I will tell you though is Summit1G. He's one of the top Twitch streamers available. Ninja, and there was one other, I think T Series, or there was one other streamer or that's up there as well. I can't remember his name. They have all just recently started getting into 5M within the last couple of weeks. So I know Summit1G was streaming 5M just last night. Legends. Tim the Tapman, yeah, that's the one.
Yep, that's I couldn't think of his name. I know it was.
Yeah, I think I saw T Series name last night, and that's got that mixed up. But yeah, Tim the Tapman, and I know Ninja and Summit were both starting to get into 5M a little bit. So should be interesting.
I gotta go check a Ninja stream out on 5M that way.
I haven't seen him stream it yet, but Summit was streaming yesterday. I believe it was yesterday, streaming some 5M. So had 50,000 people watching him stream 5M yesterday.
Send some our way, jeez.
No kidding.
I don't think
some players is our way too. Send some of those big streamers to our server.
We need viewership on the FN.
Yeah.
What disappoints me is we have a full server.
Brandon just said watching. That 60,000 viewers were watching him last night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
so that's going to be huge for 5M. That's going to be huge for the communities.
Yeah.
There should be a.
Well, we need somebody like that to come play on our server for a little bit and stream it.
We need somebody like that to come on the show, I think.
Yes,
that too.
So
yeah,
I think we have to.
The NARP show. This is the FNN show.
Oh yeah,
FNA.
This is the FNA show.
FNA.
Can't get it right.
FNA.
Well, I think that's going to do it for us, guys.
Like 3 days.
Doesn't look like we have a whole lot of they're playing on no pixel though. Oh, so they're playing GTA 5 but on no pixel. So that's Nick in the chat, and we'll have to reach out to him and see what we can figure out. But that's gonna do it for today, guys. Want to thank you all for coming and watching the live stream. The recording will be up shortly, and definitely send this link back out. Make sure you join us on the Discord. Don't forget. We'd like to continue any discussions we're having. In addition, feel free to hit any of us up in the Discord as well. We're definitely willing to talk to any of our viewers and hang out with you guys in there. Periodically, you'll see some of us just hanging out in the voice channel there as well. And of course, check out Ziff and Rusty over at newagerp.com and in their Discord as well. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.